I never imagined that a single afternoon could change the way I looked at someone I thought I already knew. My name is Emily Turner, and until that day, I was just another woman trying to keep my life together, balancing work at a small design firm, caring for my younger sister after our parents passed away, and carrying the weight of promises I made to myself years ago about not letting anyone get close again. Then there was Daniel Hayes. Daniel wasn't supposed to be part of my world. He had been my sister's friend for years, someone she always described as dependable, solid, a little quiet, and someone you could call at 3 in the morning if your car broke down, and he'd actually come. We'd crossed paths at birthdays, cookouts, and the occasional holiday dinner, but I never paid much attention to him. To me, he was just that polite guy with kind eyes, the one who always stayed late to help clean up, the one who never said much but somehow always seemed to notice everything. That afternoon, the rain was coming down in sheets, so thick that the city seemed blurred behind the windshield. I had been driving back from a client's office when I realized the roads were starting to flood, and I pulled over to the nearest gas station to wait it out. I was texting my sister when a knock on the window startled me. There he was, Daniel, soaked from head to toe, his hair dripping into his eyes, and a half-smile tugging at his mouth despite the storm around us. "Emily," he said through the glass, his voice muffled. I rolled the window down halfway, and he asked if I could give him a ride. His truck had died a few blocks away, and there wasn't a tow truck available anytime soon. I didn't think twice. "Get in," I said. He climbed in, water running off his jacket and jeans, and the small car suddenly felt even smaller. He smelled of rain and something warm and clean that didn't match the storm outside. He wiped his hands on his jeans, and for a moment, we just sat there listening to the drumming of the rain on the roof. We started talking, at first just about the weather and how bad traffic was. But then, somewhere between the main road and my street, the conversation shifted. He asked about my sister, about work, and then, quietly, about me. It wasn't just the questions he asked, it was the way he listened. I don't know why I told him things I hadn't told anyone else. Maybe it was the storm. Maybe it was the way he didn't look away when I admitted I'd been feeling overwhelmed lately, like I was carrying more than I could handle. He didn't try to fix anything or tell me what to do. He just nodded, his hands resting on his knees, and said softly, "That sounds really hard." At some point, we pulled into my driveway, but neither of us made a move to get out. The rain was still pounding, the air inside the car thick with something unspoken. When I turned to look at him, there was something in his eyes I hadn't seen before. I don't know who moved first, but suddenly he was closer, his arm brushing against mine, and my heart raced so hard I could barely breathe. His presence filled every corner of that car, and I felt like the storm outside had somehow spilled into the small space between us. "Emily," he said, and my name on his lips sounded different, lower, more certain. "I shouldn't," I whispered, though my voice trembled, betraying me. "I know," he replied, but he didn't move away. When he finally reached for me, it wasn't reckless or rushed. It was deliberate. His hand cupped the side of my face, his thumb brushing across my cheekbone like he was memorizing it. The closeness of him stole my breath. Every muscle in my body felt strung tight as a bowstring. The first brush of his lips against mine was soft, almost questioning. For a second, I froze, terrified of what it would mean if I let myself want this. But when he pulled back, just a fraction, his forehead resting against mine, something inside me broke. I didn't want him to stop. I don't remember who deepened the kiss, only that it happened, and suddenly there was no space left between us. The world outside ceased to exist. It was just the sound of rain, the warmth of his hands, and the way his presence felt so overwhelming it made me dizzy. Daniel pulled me closer, and for a moment I couldn't think, couldn't breathe. Every bit of pain and loneliness I had been holding on to seemed to come pouring out. I had spent years building walls around myself, and in an instant, he was breaking them apart. "I didn't plan this," he murmured, his voice hoarse, like he was fighting the same battle I was. "I know," I whispered back. And I believed him. He pressed his forehead to mine again, breathing hard, and I realized my hands were clutching at his jacket, as though letting go would make everything collapse. The intensity of him, The size of his presence, the way he filled the car, and my senses made me feel small and safe all at once. We stayed like that for what felt like forever, neither of us moving, the rain hiding us from the rest of the world. I had never been so aware of another person before, every heartbeat, every breath, every inch of space between us that no longer existed. Finally, he pulled back, just far enough to look into my eyes. "Emily," he said again, and there was so much in the way he said my name that I couldn't even begin to untangle it. "Why now?" I asked, my voice breaking a little. "Because I can't pretend anymore," he said simply. It would have been easy to let fear take over. To think of my sister, of all the ways this could complicate things. But in that moment, all I could feel was the truth in his words and the steady beat of my own heart answering him. He reached out again, his hands warm as they held mine. And then, slowly, like the storm easing outside, he pulled me into an embrace. I pressed my face against his chest and let myself feel everything I had been trying to bury for so long. The grief, the loneliness, the longing I didn't even realize had been building. He held me tightly, as though he understood every part of it without me saying a word. We didn't speak much after that. We sat there, the rain slowing to a drizzle, both of us changed in some way we couldn't yet name. When he finally walked me to the door, he paused, looking down at me with an expression that made it hard to breathe. "This doesn't have to mean anything you're not ready for," he said quietly. I nodded, even though a part of me already knew it did. That night, long after the storm had passed, I lay in bed replaying every moment. I could still feel the weight of his arms around me, still hear the low timbre of his voice when he said my name. And for the first time in years, I felt something I thought I'd lost forever, a spark of hope. The days that followed weren't easy. My sister noticed the shift between us almost immediately, and there were questions I wasn't ready to answer. But Daniel never pushed. He was patient, steady, just like he had been in that car, waiting for me to take the lead. I don't know where this will go. Maybe it's reckless. Maybe it will end in heartbreak. But I do know this. That moment, when his closeness stole my breath and forced me to face everything I had been running from, will stay with me forever. Because sometimes, the people you least expect are the ones who remind you how alive you still are. And for the first time in a very long time, I want to find out what happens next.